What's going on, everybody? This Afro Think Tank. Listen, the Dudula movement in South Africa is a xenophobic hate group sponsored by white supremacists. That's what it is. All the xenophobia you see happening in South Africa, all right? It's sponsored by white supremacists who see that there are South Africans who want their land back, they want their country back, and they're taking the necessary steps within the economy and economics in order to do that. Right? They want to slow that down, and they also want to slow the unity between South Africans and other Africans, because if South Africans unify with other Africans globally, they will have the economic leverage and they will have the supply lines to combat white supremacy within South Africa. That's why white supremacy, just like in America, as they have a vet cartel and they get people willing to sell their people for dollars, or people who have different agendas, but they're willing to skew their agendas because they're not smart enough to realize when they're being played, right? Using those type of people in order to spread hate and xenophobia, right? And on top of hate and xenophobia on the ground, also spread hate and xenophobia online to get other people to react to how they're reacting based off what they're being told or propagandized, against other Africans. This is all divide and conquer. This is the white supremacists' number one tactic to control and dominate any place in the world, is to get the indigenous people to fight indigenous people. Because there is no such thing as an African in Africa who's a foreigner. There's no such thing as an African that's a foreigner in African land. And no African outside of the diaspora is actually a foreigner on African land, right? These are all white European concepts that some of us Africans globally have adopted, and we use that based off our perspective to attack those who we deem as the enemy, when in fact it is part of the white supremacists divide and conquer program that they use to separate us in our various different enclaves and ethnic groups around the world. All right, anyway, that's all I gotta say. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
How do you chase a human being from the hospital because they cannot pay for health services or for healthcare services?
Life comes first. So if it is an emergency, we will definitely let you in and be treated. But once you are stable, then you need to be handed over to law enforcement. That's actually what's supposed to be happening.
Zandile, everyone in the hospital is an emergency case. I won't go to the hospital if it's not an emergency. When I have a headache, I stay at home and I take paracetamol. When I have stomach ache, I know probably stomach upset, I drink water. But if you see me in the hospital, it means my situation is not good.
I want you to tell me if it's an emergency when you are coming for a follow-up to collect your ARVs. Is that an emergency?
Anytime you see me in the hospital, it's an emergency.
Mhlawumbe going forward yini enizoqala niyenze as Operation Dudula?
Siyobuyela ema-clinic. I'm sure you would have seen an article from Newsroom Africa. Uthi Gauteng province is crying for the debt that's owed by foreign nationals. So we're going to start at the clinics and the hospital, healthcare facilities, that's where we're going.
Operation Dudula says it is protecting South Africans, that it's defending jobs, healthcare and safety from being overwhelmed by foreign nationals. It's a message that resonates with many because the frustration is real. But what happens when frustration becomes policy without proper facts to back it up? So let's look at the numbers. South Africa has a population of about, give or take, 65 million people. Migrants, both documented and undocumented, form about 4 to 5% of the population. And yet they've become the center of blame for everything from unemployment to overloaded clinics to crime. Is that proportionate or is it convenient? Most migrants in South Africa are also not in high-paying jobs. In fact, more than 80% of them do informal work. Domestic work, street traders, construction laborers, shop assistants. And these jobs are often unregulated and severely underpaid. And yes, that raises very valid concerns, because in a broken labor system, cheap, unprotected labor becomes attractive at the expense of local employment, wage growth, and local skills development. But that is not a migration issue. That's a labor enforcement issue. Another concern is safety. People ask, why is there an increase in informal settlements and registered businesses, people overstaying their visas, or being here undocumented? The answer is often delays and dysfunction in the legal system. Because right now, over 100,000 asylum applications are stuck in a backlog. And some have waited up to 5 years just for clarity. So while follow the legal route sounds reasonable, the legal route itself is broken and non-functioning. Then there's another flashpoint: healthcare. There's a deep belief that migrants are overwhelming clinics and hospitals, but surveys by medical NGOs show the opposite. Many migrants avoid clinics and hospitals out of fear of being either mistreated or deported. So again, the problem is not overuse, it's exclusion, poor communication, and underfunded systems. And here's something we don't talk about enough: Western migrants from Europe, North America, Australia. They are also here. They live in well-resourced suburbs, benefiting from favorable exchange rates and have access to top-tier private healthcare. But public anger never focuses on this. So when we do debate migration, we must ask, are we being objective or selective? The truth is, South Africans have valid concerns about unemployment, about exploitation, about safety, but blaming migrants, especially low-income African migrants, don't solve our problems. It won't build jobs for us. It won't fix our housing. It won't reform home affairs and improve labor protections. Those are structural failings, and they also need structural solutions. So before we rally behind movements that promise protection, we need to ask, are they offering solutions or are they scapegoating? Because if the goal is a safer, fairer, functional South Africa, then we need policies based on facts, not fear.
Xenophobia Dudula is a prime example of when the blind lead the blind, or when the blind take advantage of vulnerable people. Because the best way to manipulate people is to use their fear, twist it and turn it and use it to your advantage. And that's exactly what she did with Operation Dudula. She claims that foreign people are damaging the South African economy. But when you dig deep and look deeper, you realize most of the issues are coming internally. Because when you have your health of minister been involved in all this fraudulent claim, you need to actually look at it and realize, wow, this issue is actually within us. Or when you have people of a lighter shade or who are white living in these luxurious places that you could never enter or you're not even allowed to enter, and you might need a permit to enter that. That's when you have to realize the issue is actually not externally, but we need to look within. Also, fun fact, I don't know if you guys know, Zandeli's kids actually have Zimbabwean. Yes, she had kids with a Zimbabwean, but yet she claims these foreigners are the problems. And when she claims that foreign people are the problem, she's only talking of one shade. And this is why you should be careful with who you choose to be a leader or who you choose to lead you. Because whatever she's doing, she's just spreading self-hate and hate in general. I'm only speaking about this because I saw the video of the Ghanaian businessman that they were terrorizing, bullying, interrogating, telling him to leave the country. And that's just one example of many. I will never forget the case of the Malawian woman that was heavily pregnant and she needed help and she needs to go to the hospital. And the way they all went to that hospital protesting and trying to refuse her the medical care that she needed. It's crazy. There's just so many cases. And you know what? I don't even like speaking about this stuff because my page is not really about this stuff, but sometimes we just need to talk about it and this is just self-hate. When the blind lead the blind, this is what we get.
Can they Dudula white people first?
Yes, I'm going.
I'm not even going to talk. I don't care.
Sure.
To be quite honest, I feel like I wish for it to be successful because I want to see those brothers and sisters of ours that want to take up those jobs of restaurants and tuck shop. Is that what we have? So since 1994, our fight has been tuck shops and restaurants jobs. Is that what, as South Africans, I'm not saying we must not look out for those jobs. The problem is we're going to only talk to the waitresses. Why are we not talking to the Italian who owns the restaurant? My thing is they Dudulaing halfway.
Position of Operation Dudula of stopping foreign nationals from accessing public service facilities, authorities say is illegal. In South Africa, all individuals, and that includes foreign nationals, are entitled to access basic healthcare services as part of what the Constitution provides for. What is the organization's response?
So let me start with the Constitution, because unfortunately our Constitution has been misrepresented. Now, the Constitution talks about South Africa belongs to all who lives in it. Now, that's the preamble. But before we get to that line, there is something else at the top when nobody's talking about that. It says that we as the people of South Africa. Now, this constitution was drafted after the apartheid times. Now, this meant that it was the inclusion of the people that were disadvantaged at that time, which were Black, Colored, and Indians. Now, when the constitution was drafted, it was the diversity, inclusion of the people that were disadvantaged. It was not talking about foreign nationals. There is no country that will draft a constitution that will accommodate illegality. Now, that's the same reason why we have an immigration act that will talk together with the constitution. Now, Section 17 talks about how people should come to this country being documented and have medical insurance. Now, people are not talking about that. Now, yes, it's correct. Under the Constitution, it says that everyone has the right to health, education, and, all of those. But also, subsection 2 talks about when there is enough resources. Currently, we as South African, we are battling. Our systems are suffocating. So I want us to peg the Constitution aside because the Constitution is protecting the citizens of this country. Now, there is nothing lawless with what we are doing because we are a failed nation, failed by our own government. The very same people who are claiming that whatever that it is that we are doing is illegal, they are the ones that were supposed to be enforcing these laws, making sure that we don't have people coming in and out of the country without proper documents. Now, when one comes to a country, they will come with a permit, and the permit or visa will state what are they here to do. If they're here to do business, then they will have a minimum of 5 million invested in this country. Now, what we are seeing is that we have people who are undocumented claiming what belongs to South Africans because we are the taxpayers. We have all the right to use these facilities. Now, we are not saying they must not use they must not get medical attention. All we are saying is that we want South Africans to be prioritized. And if they are to use these facilities, then they need to pay for it. I think that's all we are saying, that they must go to private hospitals because public should be reserved for South Africans because they have all the right. They are the taxpayers in this country.
Is the challenge of undocumented foreign nationals then not one that needs to be addressed uniquely through the channels that are available via institutions like the Home Affairs departments, border controls or management bodies, etc., without it being linked to access to health and schooling, which are basic rights for all?
So, this country is lawless, I must say, and we are being failed by the very same people who are supposed to be doing their work. Now, Operation Dudula, in its inception, we have marched to all these departments. I mean, we've marched to the Home Affairs, Department of Health, Education. There is no one that will claim that we have not submitted a memorandum with a list of demands. And part of those demands are that we want our borders to be closed. I mean, we have porous borders. We have ghosts that are living in this country we can't even account for. Somebody will tell you that foreigners, it's only 4% of the population in this country. How do you count people who are undocumented? I'm just wondering where they're getting that percentage from. But the failed state is leading to this, that civil organizations like Operation Dudula are now standing up for themselves and making sure that they save the little that's left from this country. Now, we've sat on net joints where all the stakeholders were there, your SEPs, Home Affairs, immigrations, and all of them. And, we've done a nice presentation to them to show them that, our country is deteriorating, buildings are dilapidating, there's illegal connection everywhere because of the hijacked properties. And, there's at schools, there's overcrowding at schools, hospitals, people, give birth on the floors because, there's just no order in this country. But they would not listen to us. Now, this is I'm talking about something that happened 4 years ago. Now, 5 years later, we are sitting here with a bad situation that not even the government itself can be able to control because we have all the continent uniting here in South Africa, and it's not fair for us. And we don't hate them, but what we're saying is that we're not coping as South Africans. I mean, we want South Africans to be prioritized. That's what we want as Operation Dudula, and that this country needs to be law. There needs to be law and order as per the Constitution, as per the immigration laws. If people can just respect that, then we would not be here today.
So is Operation Dudula...
I left Operation Dudula because it was taking a direction that I was not there to lead. When I led Operation Dudula, for millions of people to know, the mission was simple. What we were trying to achieve was simple. We were fighting illegal, undocumented foreigners that were undermining the laws of South Africa. Now, when the evolution or revolution, depending on how you want to see it, started moving to fighting all foreigners, I said, to hell with that. Anyone who's undermining the laws of South Africa, including undocumented, especially undocumented foreigners. We can't live with ghosts in our community. If you need to be held accountable. Accountability is the operative word here. If you are not on the systems, your fingerprint, you kill people, you do this, and we can't catch you because you are undocumented foreign. How does that work? Everyone in this room has an ID.
Operation Dudula, South Africa, Black South Africa. Oh my gosh. You know, Black South Africa is like that student that keeps failing the same grade. Just failing and failing and failing and failing. It's like, man, how many times are you going to repeat this class? We're still dealing with Afrophobia, xenophobic mindsets in South Africa. In South Africa, the land of Nelson Mandela. It's such a shame.
It is so embarrassing. The person that fought for freedom for the black people in South Africa, and now these black people are acting in the way that they were treated 31 years ago. It is such a shameful thing. And they're doing it loud, and they're doing it very proud.
That is fake confidence. That is not true confidence. That is stupidity in full display. To see those black South Africans there fighting foreigners, fighting, saying that these particular foreigners are taking our opportunities away. You, black South African, you should be ashamed of yourself. Well, we know that it's not all black South Africans. It's just that those ones of Operation Dudula. What's that little chick's name again?
Zandile Dubula.
Zandile.
Yes.
Zandile. That one did not go to school. I'm telling you. You know, she's not the founder of that Operation Dudula.
No. It
Lux.
Yeah, Lux.
Mhlantla Lux.
Yes.
I've always liked that guy. Since like 4 years ago, when I first saw his videos here and there, there was a time, I don't know if it was 2021 or 2022, where he was arrested, something like that. I heard him speak, I watched some interviews. I said, this boy can think.
Yeah.
This boy, there's some thinking here. He's making sense here and there. So anyway, he was the founder of that Operation Dudula.
Yeah.
And the mission at first was always to obviously do the right thing. We don't want undocumented people anyway. Nobody wants undocumented people. The rules is not here fighting that you accept undocumented people in South Africa. Black South Africa, before you think of writing here, or before you think of speaking, you must think first. You must listen to what I'm saying. Because they're very quick to just want to argue. That's the trend. That's the character of a black South African. He wants to argue with you first, but he hasn't heard you first. You understand what I'm saying? You must listen first before you feel the need to want to just spill some shit, basically.
Yeah.
Some shit. So anyway, that Lux who founded that Operation Dudula, resigned from it.
Yeah.
He left that.
He said, no, yeah, I'm not being part of what is happening here now, what is starting to happen.
The vision is changing.
Yes.
Yes, the intentions are changing.
Yes.
Because he was doing the right thing of being a voice or amplifying the criminality within immigration or undocumented migrants. Every country has the right to do that.
Yes, we don't want to have these illegal immigrants in our country and they're still making money somehow. We don't want that in our country.
Besides the fact that they are making money or not, let's not focus on whether they are making money, because that's where the jealousy of these black freaking South Africans is sperming from. You understand?
Yeah.
You are undocumented and at the same time you are making money. You Pakistani guy, why are you hiring this undocumented illegal Malawi guy? Don't focus on the money, you black South Africa. Just if you want people to hear you, if you want people to listen to your message, to give you reason of any form, leave the money part alone. When Black South Africa comes out here and says, stop hiring illegal immigrants, you must hire only South Africans. Actually, with Operation Dudula, they're not just against illegal immigrants. They're against foreigners, whether they are legal or illegal.
Yeah, that is where...
That's the crazy part. That's the xenophobic, Afrophobic part of this freaking Dudula.
Yeah.
Yes, my parents are from Zimbabwean, but I was born in South Africa, and that makes me a South African. Yes, my parents are from Zimbabwean, but I was born in South Africa, and that makes me a South African.